And then all of a sudden, you're at Everton, you've got your bag, and you're pulled by Ray Wilkins in the morning of the game. You said, oh, by the way, you're starting today, you're playing. I'm like, wow, really? Andre Kanchelskis on the right wing, eh? I'll have a little bit of that.
And you played left back, was it?
Left back, I was a full back. So you talk about, and I hear a lot of parents in academies, and they talk about, well, my son's a centre back or my son's a full back. You never know until your late teens, early 20s, what position you're going to be. He'd spin in behind. He was thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead, and my other memory was coming off the pitch and bamboozled a bit by Bergkamp. But it was a great learning curve for me as an individual coming off the pitch. We sat down and you get home and your dad goes, that was tough for you out there, son. That was really tough today. Cheers, Dad. I know that. Sort of thing, yeah. We've got one outstanding individual at the minute who I think has a hell of an opportunity in the game. But as a coach, he's going to hate me, absolutely hate me, because I'm going to be on top of him 24/7. And we may clash a lot, and he may think but I know if I'm not on top of him that he isn't going to show those hard-working traits.
Yeah. Welcome to another episode of Views from Inside, the football podcast that interviews people from within the game so that our viewers and the young footballers watching can gain inspiration from their real life experiences. Today I have the pleasure of speaking to somebody who is an ex-QPR Shrewsbury Town player. He's also somebody who's, I believe, won Player of the Year in 1999 for Bristol Rovers, and is now he's now an academy coach for Bristol City. It's Trevor Challis, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me, Trevor. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's a pleasure, Leon.
I appreciate it. What have you been up to today? The weather's been terrible, so I guess you've just been stuck indoors.
I've become the best homeschooling teacher you've ever known. So I'm trying to structure the day around that, really. So trying to make sure the children have some structure in the day. So a little bit of homeschooling and just getting prepared to watch all the football tonight, which is good. Yeah.
Yeah. So you are a father, you're a husband. How many children do you have, Trevor?
2 children. I've got two girls. One girl who's 17 and I've got one girl who's 6.
Okay.
And both keep me very busy, Leon.
I bet they do. So I'm 2 as well, but I'm one of each. My eldest daughter's 9 and my youngest is 3. So I'm at different ends, but you've also got a massive gap with yours. That must have been, that couldn't have been easy.
No, it wasn't. We were always planned on having one, and then we decided, well, if something, God forbid, ever happened to us, then she'd be an only child. So we said, let's have another child. So she'd have a sibling. So we went, yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, that happened, yeah.
Do any of your daughters take after yourself, Trevor, in the football steps?
No, they're both dancers. They both.
Okay.
Yeah, my eldest competes and is doing very well at her dance. She's at college doing dance. And my youngest is following in her footsteps, and she's also going into the dance route as well. So they both love the music and dancing, yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. So my daughter does dance as well. I think it's something that they all love to do. Is dance around the house, Christmas time, birthdays, every day of the week, they're always dancing.
Absolutely.
You've got to encourage it though, don't you?
Yeah. I tried to get them into the football, but they weren't having it.
So that's probably how did you get into playing football then, Trevor? Was that maybe something that you got into from your father or brothers or sisters? How did you get into football?
No, my father was a military man. There was no real interest in the sport of football, really. And I was a bit of a late developer going into the game, where you look at the academies now and you hear stories of children joining at 5 and 6. And I was a little bit later. I was probably 9 or 10, playing in the playground, the usual story, playing in the playground. A friend of mine thought I was quite good, and he invited me to his team to go and train.
Okay.
And I just went from there, really, and got the bug. Like you see it all the time with young boys who play football. We've got the football on, and that was me. And I was football 24/7 at that point. I was down the parks. If I wasn't training, then I was in the house. My mum screamed at me, get the football in the garden. And that was my life then. It was really 24/7 football. And I got the bug big time, yeah. So I was a late developer, about 9 or 10. And I got headhunted from the first team that I was playing for into another team. And we had a very good team, if I'm going to be honest. We had QPR centre forward Kevin Gallen was our centre forward. Okay. Matty Braze, who passed away a couple of years ago, played for Fulham and Cardiff. Was in. So we had a really good football team where I think 4 or 5 players turned professional from that Sunday football team.
Wow, that's remarkable, to be honest.
Yeah, and one of the boys, so you talk about kids kicking around together and etc. So one of my friends who lived at the bottom of my road, Marvin Bryan, we used to kick around 24/7, and he ended up playing for Blackpool and Rotherham and teams like that, and that was all from our little street as well, you know. So you talk about opportunity. We had a park at the bottom of the road. We had a lot of green space in our cul-de-sac, and we were forever. Yeah, I think our neighbours, we must have gotten our neighbours' nerves, because we must have been kicking the cars, we must have been kicking the house with the ball looking back, but we were always playing football.
That's it, man. I remember when I was younger and it was pretty much the same. Now, I'd never got as far as you did in the game, nowhere near, but I remember it was very much a case of you're on the, you know, playing and, like you say, kicking the ball up against the wall, and, you know, you're back, if that ball is hitting the neighbour's wall, as it says, so they're not getting happy and things like that. I don't see that nowadays. Do you think there's a big difference to what it was like in your day to now, in terms of that, you know, friends playing football out on the street, just having a good time?
100%. Now, I live in a cul-de-sac, like literally, like when I grew up as a kid myself.
Yeah.
And so children have been off school now for 3 or 4 months, really. I don't see anybody kicking around like we used to when we were younger.
Yeah.
I see them playing on their bikes. I see them playing on scooters. I see a lot of that, but I don't see the football being kicked around in the great numbers like I saw as a kid. I really don't.
Yes, I think time has changed now, isn't it? Because now we have the iPads and the tablets and YouTube and all of that sort of stuff that we didn't have in my day or your day. Do you think that there's a change then? Because you're a coach at the moment. Do you see a difference in the number of, I won't use the word quality, but maybe the number of kids coming through an academy than maybe the numbers that there were in yesteryear?
There was a lot of investment put into the academies probably about 6 or 7 years ago with the EPPP. Okay. Is the quality of player much better than before that? I'm not too sure. I was watching a lot of the reruns from earlier championships, and there was the England team. I think, oh my gosh, it had Ashley Cole in it. It had young Wayne Rooney. It had Michael Owen. It had David Beckham. It had Rio Ferdinand, unbelievable centre-back, John Terry. I'm not sure. I think there's a lot of different type of footballers being bred at the minute, but I'm not sure the quality from when I was watching that. And that England team should have done a lot better. Don't get me wrong. There was a lot of faults in that England team or that group of players. And it was slightly before the introduction of the EPPP. There's a different type of player being bred at the minute. I don't think the defenders are as good as they were, if I'm talking about in that era. I don't think the defensive side of the game is really as good. Is the attacking side better? Yeah, I think there is a lot of exciting attacking-minded players being developed. If I look at Sancho's, your Fodens, your Raheem Sterling's from QPR, you know, those type of players I think are really exciting. I don't think the defensive side of is being developed as well as it possibly could be at the minute.
Okay. So when you was coming through in your day, you said that you went to, you know, your first football team that was very good, Sunday League, and quite a few players made it pro. How did you then make the step up from there to eventually playing for QPR? How did that look?
I felt I was quite fortunate because I was selected for the FA National School at sort of 15 years old. So I had a 2-year apprenticeship before I sort of become apprentice. And I was quite lucky because I hear a lot of stories. Michael Owen spoke a lot about it, and Sol Campbell was in my year group. And I loved it because I was playing football, as I
Yeah.
said to you earlier, 24/7. Now, a lot of the other players, a lot of the other boys, they didn't. I don't think they took to it as well as as I did in particular. If I think back,
Yeah.
so I felt I had a good grounding. I felt I was already a step ahead of some of the other kids going into an apprenticeship, which it used to be an apprenticeship. It's a YTS scheme now. And then slowly during that 2-year period and going into my first year pro, I was invited onto the coach to help with the kit or to help with preparing the food for the players. And I was in and around the first team players constantly, really,
Okay.
either in the dressing rooms or on the coach or at away games, just helping. And then all of a sudden I can remember Jerry Francis, it was originally, and then Ray Wilkins. I was asked to bring my boots because I'd be joining in the training sessions. And slowly, without realising it, you've gone from helping to playing and training in and around the team. And I felt they'd done that really well, QPR. That introduction into the first team environment was handled brilliantly for the young lads. And during that period, there was a lot of young footballers come through at QPR, whether it be, as I mentioned earlier, Kevin Gallen, our centre forward, whether it be Nigel Quasi, who was an outstanding centre midfielder from our youth team, whether it be Richard Langley, another centre midfielder who was a highly talented boy, Matty Brazier, as I mentioned earlier. Danny Dicchio was in our team. So there was about 5 or 6 players
he was a striker, was it? Was he the striker?
Big tall centre forward. Yeah. He moved out to Italy. He went from QPR to Italy.
Yes.
And he done very well, finished his career in the MLS, if I believe it. So.
I remember him. So do you think that was a plan then when they got you to start helping out with the meals and stuff? That was a plan to introduce Trevor into the first team, sort of transition you in?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that was a plan. And it's something I think that clubs do better now.
Yeah.
I think QPR done it very well, but I think it's done a lot better now when I hear about the way they're introducing the young lads at clubs at the moment. And as I said, and then all of a sudden you're at Everton, you've got your bag, and you're pulled by Ray Wilkins in the morning of the game. You said, "Oh, by the way, you're starting today. You're playing." I'm like, "Wow, really? Andre Kanchelskis on the right wing? Eh? I'll have a little bit of that."
So was that your debut against Manchester United?
I played previously. I come on as a sub.
Yeah.
In previous games, in the games against Coventry and West Ham and games like that. But that was my full debut away at Goodison. It was against Everton. Yeah, a fantastic experience. We got beat 2-0, but I felt I acquitted myself very well on the day. I think over the halfway line, I defended the whole game.
You know, silly me, I then assumed Manchester United, but of course, Kanchelskis did play for Everton, didn't he?
Yeah.
And you played left back, was it?
Left back, I was a full back. So you talk about, and I hear a lot of parents in academies, and they talk about, well, my son's a centre back or my son's a full back. You never know until your late teens, early 20s, what position you're going to be. I started off at the FA School of Excellence as a wide midfielder because I had a good passing range and nice technique. Probably not the quickest, if I'm going to be honest. I think if I'd have touched more pace, I probably would have gone on and played at a higher level for longer. And then you sort of end up as a holding midfielder in the youth team, and then you play as a centre back. Not quite the tallest. I was never going to be a centre back. And then you get pigeonholed left footer, dogged defender, left back. Yeah.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for sharing that, because I think that's a great bit of insight into what actually happens with positioning, because a lot of kids nowadays, I know some family members, I don't want to be a centre back. I don't want to be a centre back. And as you say, you don't know what you're going to be until later on. You hear Rio Ferdinand, I believe, was a striker at one point, and then now he's made his name of being a centre back. So you just never know.
I was at a conference at St George's Park, and Tony Carr, he told the story about how they converted Rio from being a centre forward to a centre back, and he was like, "No, I'm not having it. I don't want to be a centre back." And they had to show him videos of top centre backs, European centre backs, and I think what sold it to him, what Tony Carr said, was when England reverted to a back three in Euro '96. And it sort of become fashionable to be that middle centre back to come out with the ball. And Rio become, I think I'll have a little bit of this. That looks a good position. But he said it was tough convincing him. It was tough converting him. And And there was a lot of mistakes along the way, but they went with it because he was a very talented individual.
Yeah, yeah. I won't go on about Rio because he is one of my favorite players, but I won't continue on about Rio. Um, Trevor, you actually played in the Premier League as well, didn't you? So that's phenomenal. What sort of how did that experience? How was that experience playing in the Premier League?
Um, it happened so quickly, so it went so fast.
Yeah.
The game that sticks out in my mind, I played against Arsenal as a young fullback, and they never really played with width. So the build-up of the game, it was a lot of work trying to stop Dennis Bergkamp, really, who was
Wow.
dropped into pockets of space. He'd like to go on the half turn and thread Ian Wright or Paul Merson or players like that. So I was tasked with if he dropped into the right-hand channel, I'd get nice and tight because there wasn't any width. He must have had eyes in the back of his head, the guy. My overriding memory is I couldn't get tight enough to nick it off him. If I dropped off him, he'd spin in behind. He was a lot taller and a lot quicker than people thought. He'd spin in behind. He was thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead, and my other memory was coming off the pitch and bamboozled a bit by Bergkamp. But it was a great learning curve for me as an individual coming off the pitch. We sat down and you get home and your dad goes, "That was tough for you out there, son. That was really tough today." Cheers, Dad. I know that. Sort of thing, yeah.
Do you remember roughly how old you was, Trevor?
I was 20.
He was 20 at the time. Wow. Come on, 20-year-old, and you've got to mark and deal with Dennis Bergkamp. That's
Yeah.
not an easy task.
Yeah. But as I said, some of the players at that level, another one that sticks in my mind was Georgie Kinkladze. I don't know if you remember him, Manchester City
Man
winger.
City, yeah. Left footer.
Unbelievable, fantastic ability. And there was a line of us, I think, at Main Road. He was dribbling down the side, and none of us wanted to go in and make the tackle. And in the end, Nigel Quasi come and took wiped him out. He had some ability, and so you talk about the players. Then I think it is really the foreign players that have come into the game have really enhanced the Premier League. It was nowhere near as great then. So they're two of the foreign players I talk about there: George Kinkladze, Dennis Bergkamp. You look at some of the foreign players that are in the Premier League now; it's really kicked on massively.
Do you think then what separates the top players from the good players is that thinking? Is that you said always 2-3 steps ahead?
Yeah, and we try to do it in the academies now with a lot more. And I never had it when I was growing up. A lot more of our sessions were structured sessions.
Okay.
We try to unstructure the sessions a lot more. So we'll try a lot more street football type sessions where there's so many more decisions to be made, especially for the midfielders. So we talk about we're developing a lot of attack-minded players, especially in the midfield and attacking areas. That's probably why, because a lot of our sessions are now structured for a little bit of chaos, really. It's so much more decisions that's been made.
Yeah.
And I really had that. And I imagine those players who were coming from, I know Bergkamp was from Holland, and Belgium have been very, very radical in their youth development way before us, and countries like that.
Okay. Do you think now that the football, from the coaching perspective, has the football changed now from when you was playing in your early days to maybe what you see the coaching like now? Because I could imagine now that there's probably a lot more coaching with regards to ball on the floor rather than ball being played in the air. Would I be right in thinking that?
Yeah, you're 100% right. And the higher you go up, so we play at a Category 2 level at Bristol City. If you go up to the Category 1 level, everything's played from the goalkeeper, the 2 centre-backs split down the sides, the 2 full-backs go high and wide. You have 1 centre midfielder drop deep to create the 3 in midfield. You have the second centre midfielder slightly higher in between the lanes. You know, there's so much more. And the formations that teams play. When I was young, we were quite rigid as a 4-4-2 growing up. You know, that was the way football was taught. And you had 1 centre forward dropping deep. You had the second centre forward running down the sides. Les Ferdinand was one of the best I ever watched doing that little movement running down the sides for the fullback pass. Okay. Now you have a 4-2-3-1 with 1 centre forward and a number 10. You might have a 3-box, 2 centre forward. You know, you might have the boxing midfield, which is hard because you've got 2 10s for them running off one centre forward, and you've got to be quick on the side. You've got to see what's happening. And I
Yeah.
think there's a lot. And I think the coaches have got to see it a lot quicker, especially the changes of formations in games, because the boys are very adaptable now. You can ask them to change, and they'll go from a 4-2-3-1 into a 4-4-2 or a back three with a boxing midfield, and it's very, very adaptable. The boys have become.
Is that because of the work that's done on the training ground, why they're able to adapt, or is it just the football intelligence is now a lot better because of the way that they've been coached from a younger age?
Yeah, there's two parts. There's the coaching from the younger age groups. Absolutely. I think the work that goes on now in the younger age groups, I see some of our coaches and what they do in the evenings. It's fantastic. And I've grown up through that. I've grown up through younger age groups in the evenings. I think it's excellent. And they're also seeing it on the television as well. So they're seeing the different teams, and the boys are watching. So you talk about the YouTube footballers, they're coming up with the moves as well. So in 1v1 areas, and you ask them, where did you pick that up from? And they're watching it on YouTube, or they're picking it up from different things. So there's so many different streams now where the boys can learn. They can learn in academies. They learn in the evenings when they're watching games or when they're watching YouTube. And the boys are engrossed. They're totally engrossed in learning and becoming better. Yeah.
Wicked. If we was to go one step back to your playing days in QPR, just very quickly, am I right? You played with Ian Holloway.
Yeah.
You was there the same time as Ian Holloway, Trevor Sinclair, Andy Impey as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it like playing with those players?
I've become quite close with Ian, and he was the one who took me to Bristol Rovers.
Bristol Rovers, yeah.
So Ian was brilliant. You know, the information and the help that he gave us young lads, and I roomed with Ian Holloway as well as when I was in the first team, and the help and the guidance that he gave us was outstanding. I don't think you would find a better individual, because Ray Wilkins was an outstanding individual, but Ian had traits of Ray in abundance. But he was just so emotional. So what you see on the television with Ian is what he's like. And you know, that is him to a T. He'll fly off a handle at the slightest little thing, and he'll be hugging everybody. Do you know what I mean? He's that type of guy. Trevor Sinclair was one of the most talented individuals that I've ever seen work. Very powerful for a young lad when he came into QPR. Great runner, strong as an ox, but technically very good. And Andy Impey was a fantastic winger. He played in front of me quite a bit. His work rate, his endeavour, and so you talk about another fantastic individual as well. Great kid. And it's great when we play QPR, I see him because he's doing the 23s. So whenever we play their 23s, I always have a good catch up with.
Oh, brilliant.
As well. So it's great to catch up with him when we play them, yeah.
Nice. You mentioned that Ian took you to Bristol Rovers because did you move to Bristol Rovers after QPR, was it?
Yeah, so the year we got relegated from the Premier League, I think one of our first 3 or 4 games I got injured quite badly. So I had 5 knee operations where I was out of the game for a year and a half. So it was about 18 months. Yeah, 5 knee ops. And I just represented that summer at England under 21. So you can imagine what a kick in the teeth that injury was for me personally. So that was really tough. And when you've got a lot of people writing you off from the game about surgeons, you know, that were trying to fix my knee and get my knee right, you know, can you do anything? And no, I don't. Football's all I know. Ian Holloway, if I'm going to be honest, Ian Holloway took a gamble on me. Could have gone badly, but it went really well.
Brilliant.
I repaid his faith really well in my first season in particular. I got Player of the Year and sort of grew a great rapport with the fans. And we had a really good team. So as a football team, we had the likes of Barry Howes, who moved on to Fulham, Jason Roberts, who went to West Brom.
Okay.
And then Wigan, Peter Beadle, Jamie Curran. So the team that we had going forwards was an outstanding team. And I thought as a player, it was very easy to look good because it was a very, very outstanding group of players that we had there.
My argument's always the fact that the best players look the best because they play in the best teams anyway. Trevor, would you agree with me a little bit with that or not?
Yeah, I think from my experiences, Queen's Park Rangers, previous year, before we got relegated, we had an outstanding team. You look at Les Ferdinand, you're trying to replace 25 goals a season into a team, which is near and impossible when he moved on. We lost Clive Wilson, I think, as well, to Tottenham Hotspur, who was one of the best fullbacks to never play for England.
Yeah.
You know, he was an outstanding technician of the ball. It helped me because he moved on personally. But as a young player growing up and watching him, I was absolutely amazed by him because I thought he was a fantastic fullback. So you lose him. You lose Andy Sinton as well to Tottenham. Jerry took him as well in England's international.
Oh, wow. He was there first. Okay, I remember
So
Andy
you lose
Sinton.
3 experienced players like that. And I'll put Darren Peacock into there and move to Newcastle as well, foot in the spine of the team. So you lose 3 or 4 players, and it's always difficult then to replace those type of players.
Yeah.
And then do you look as good because the team's not as good?
Yeah, it's difficult.
I had a Bristol Rovers. And the first year I was player of the year, and then we lose all the players, and it becomes really difficult because you spend so much time defending. Now, I'd rather be attacking than defending.
Yeah.
You look better.
Definitely. And you said you had good technique as well. So I'm guessing you had a good left foot, could whip those balls in.
Yeah, I like to back up play, especially the wide plays, not so much overlapping, because in my day we weren't Ashley Coles, we were more defensive minded.
Of course.
Football moved on. But when I did have the opportunity to play forwards and cross, then I did have really good quality.
If we was to talk about your injury, if you didn't mind, I just wanted to touch on that because I think it's quite important, especially for, you know, some young and up and coming players that may suffer injuries and how you dealt with that. Because as you said, you know, five knee operations out for a long time and people writing you off. I'm guessing that must have been really hard to deal with mentally as well as physically as well.
It was really tough. I'll talk about the injury when it happened. I did try to play on, so it was at Norwich.
Yeah.
I was doing a job with Rufus Brevitt of doubling up on Darren Eady, who was a really quick winger for Norwich City. So my job was to get out to him as quick as I could with Rufus and sort of try and help make him either come inside or play backwards. I was actually attacking at the time, and a centre half come across me and my knee sort of buckled underneath me, and I did try to get up and play on, but the swelling came out and I was stretchered off, and immediately the physio knew when we got back all the way back from Norwich to London that I needed to go to hospital. So, and that was the end of my sort of time at QPR really, and that's how quickly it happened. I was there from, as I said, probably 14 to, what was I then, 20, and you know, it was tough for it to all finish in that way. The caretaker manager came in, who then became the manager, was Stuart Hewson. He was very good originally when it happened, and he sent me away because he knew I was down and he knew I was a little bit depressed. So they sent me to Spain to recuperate and get away from the club, which was great. I went away with my family. And then coming back was really difficult, if I have to say. When you're on your own and you're working in the gym daily, with the same physio, the same face, it's really, really tough. But somehow, I think, I'm not sure where I got the mental toughness from, but somehow I did gain a lot of mental strength and to get me through it. And I thought it helped me later on in my career, especially. The mental strength part of it. I thought I could have easily folded that part.
Yeah, of course. Of course. And what, if there was to be any advice that you was to give to somebody going through that, what would it be?
Remain as strong as you can. It's easy for me to say keep a positive mental outlook on things, but surround yourself with positive people, not negative people writing you off. Surround yourself with as many positive people as you can. And I've become a coach now, and I speak to the boys all the time about a phrase a manager said to me once, and it stuck with me. Birds of a feather flock together, he said to me, and I didn't quite get what he was saying. And basically, good people stick together. The vacuums, the bad people will congregate together. And it took a while for me to figure out, and I use that now with the boys. And so for anybody, I think, with a long-term injury, stay positive, stay with positive people. Don't surround yourself with negativity, and keep your mental strength right.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Love that. Um, when you played at, you know, Bristol, how you played a lot of games there. Was that probably your happiest time in football?
I thought it was my hungriest time in football
Okay.
because I had a lot to prove.
Yeah,
So
after your injury.
about that first year, yeah, after my injury. So you talk about the first season in particular, well, the second season, that I'd have hunger and a fire in my belly to really succeed and grab a second chance, a second opportunity, really. And I'll forever be thankful for Ian Holloway for giving me that opportunity and chance. And after my first year, he only gave me a year. He gave me another 3-year contract after that. But there was a little part of me which I thought I performed so well in my first year, and I didn't get a move. I
Okay.
didn't get a move that a little bit of my focus went, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
A little bit of my professional focus went, and I wasn't as professional as I probably should have been at times, which may have had a detriment on my playing side of it, because I thought I played so well. I got all the Player of the Year awards. I was being touted around, and I didn't get a move. And yeah, part of the professionalism in me went. So I was disappointed in myself really after that first year.
And you got to play for England as well. I believe you also played for Ireland as well when you was younger. Is that correct?
I did. I've got dual nationality. So my mum's Irish. So while I was at the FA school, I was invited out to play for the Republic. So I went and played 2 games against Scotland. And in my team, there was Shay Given, who was in goal.
Hey.
Mark Kennedy. I know Mark from his Millwall days, so I knew him anyway, which was great. But I've really enjoyed playing for Ireland. But I'd grown up, in the England setup. So I'd been at the FA school. I played for the under-18s. I played for the under-21s. So
Yeah.
that was really my country, and I didn't feel a connection with Ireland.
Yeah.
For example, the national anthem come on, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if it was us or Scotland. I was so used to hearing the national anthem of England. So, I did select at the time to represent England. Yeah.
Brilliant. How long did you play for then, Trevor? I know after Bristol Rovers, you played, I think over 100 caps you got for Bristol Rovers, I believe.
Yeah, I played. I think with cup games, it works up nearly about 180 games in 5 seasons. I did have a lot of niggling injuries in my last couple of years, so the knee started flaring up again.
The same injury just caused you problems throughout then.
The surgeon after my last operation thought I'd have about 7 years.
Okay.
I actually played a lot longer than 7 years. I lasted till I was 33. I retired at, my last club was Eastleigh Football Club, which was a great club, lovely little club. A lot of ambition at that level of the game, and to see them that they're in the conference now and they're really having a good go at the conference. Yeah.
Well, considering you had a really bad injury when you was young, you played on for quite a while. 33 is not an early retirement by any stretch of the imagination.
No, it was quite amazing, really, because after I left Bristol Rovers, I had a spell at Telford United, another ambitious club. They signed the year I went there, they signed the likes of Fitzroy Simpson, who was a previous Man City midfielder, Lee Mills, who played in the Premier League for Bradford. We had a really good FA Cup run where we lost to Millwall in the 4th round of the FA Cup.
Okay.
Who Millwall ended up in the final that year, losing to Manchester United, I think 3-0 at Wembley. So, and they had a good team with Tim Cahill and Danny Disher, we spoke about earlier. Ray Wilkins was manager with Dennis Wise. Then I moved to the local rivals, so Shrewsbury Town, and that's a big old move when you go from Telford to Shrewsbury. And so you make that short journey down the road. But I knew they needed a fullback to get them promoted, and I jumped up the opportunity really to go and play for Shrewsbury.
And you did get promoted, didn't you?
We did get promoted, yeah. So we beat Aldershot in the playoff final, which was great for me personally, because I think I scored the winning penalty.
Winning penalty. I've done my research.
Yeah. So
Top
firstly,
man.
it was brilliant to go from Telford to Shrewsbury on deadline day, help them get promoted, score the winning penalty in
Yeah.
the playoff final, get married that summer as well. I don't think it could have
Fantastic.
been a better summer. So for me, that was a fantastic period. My time at Shrewsbury come to an end. And it was funny because I'm at 31, 32, and thinking I haven't got much time. I haven't got much time left.
Yeah.
And I wanted to stay around Bristol. Weymouth Football Club were a very, very ambitious club in the non-league scene. So they were in the conference south, the league below the conference, with ambitions to go up.
Yeah.
Went down there, historically old ground, fantastic little stadium. Went down there and we got promoted that season into the conference. I think starting the season, we were in the top 2 with Exeter, and the chairman unfortunately pulled his funding out of the club, like they do in the non-league level. I think they get bored of their toy, and they just pull the money out.
And they just pull the
Yeah,
plug.
and they pull it out, and the manager gives you a letter and says you all need a club. So, yeah, that was a fantastic 18 months or so at Weymouth, where we got promoted. Had a really good start to the conference season. Unfortunately, the chairman pulled us out. And then I finished at Eastleigh probably at 33, as I said there. And my knee was really, really in a bad way. And I was playing with one leg really at that point. But if it was me now, I'd still be playing at 44 now because I just love the game. I watch as much of it as I can. It's brilliant at the minute because some days you've got a game on at 12, you've got a game on then at 6, you've got 30. It's unbelievable. I love it.
It is. No, thank you, because you're a real inspiration. I think one of the reasons why I do this show is to get a real insight into what goes on behind the scenes. And injuries do happen to some players, and some players don't bounce back from that. And I think it's great to hear your story, somebody who was written off, but you stayed with it, you kept going, and then you managed to end up having a really good career. So for anybody who's watching this, any kids, if you do ever have the same sort of situation, please remember Trevor's story. Don't stop. Don't give up. Keep going. And also, you have to remember, you say that Ian Holloway took a chance on you, but what I like to say is you make your own luck in this world, and you then took that chance. Player of the year in your first season. That's really good. So well done to you, and thank you very much for sharing that story.
Thank you, Leon. Yeah.
If we was to discuss your days now, because you are retired now, you did give it up, and now you're coach at Bristol City, is an academy coach. Is that correct?
That's right. I coach the under-18s, which is the youth team. So they're full-time. They're scholars. It's a hybrid education system which runs alongside the football. So the education is run by the LFE, the League Football Education. And the football side of it is run by Bristol City. So we've got 25 boys next year, which make up our team. Yeah.
So how does it look in a typical day of someone who's in your academy? Do they go to school in the morning and then train in the afternoon or evening, or is they train on selective days? How does it work?
Most days are training in the morning with education after.
Okay.
Apart from a Wednesday. A Wednesday is a full education day, so they'll have a morning and an afternoon. It's a little bit like when I was a young lad at QPR, we used to do it a hybrid at Arsenal Stadium. Yeah. So the Wednesdays would be the staff day off, but the players themselves would actually have a full day's education. They also do a Thursday afternoon after football.
Yeah.
So they will do a Thursday morning, and then they'll do an education slot in the afternoon there. And they'll also do a Monday. So we'll have a recovery day, a match day +1, so to speak, in the terms, which is a light session, and then they'll go and do an education session after that football session on Monday as well.
Brilliant. I'm guessing that I know you love football, so do you enjoy the coaching side of it?
It's the next best thing you do to playing. It's the next best thing. Previously, in the role when I retired, I went into the head of recruitment role for the academy.
Okay.
Which was talent spotting.
At Bristol City?
At Bristol City,
okay.
Yeah. So the role become available and I applied for it and got the role. So my job was then to bring the talent into the club to be assessed by the coaches, which I really enjoyed. I love building relationships with local teams and players and parents and fighting other clubs really for the players and for that player, because Southampton are really heavy in Bristol with, they've got a fantastic academy, and some of the players that they can boast about it are unbelievable, at Southampton, and they're really heavy into Bristol because they've got a centre not far away in Bath, which they can develop the players from there. So, and I've really enjoyed that part of it, going and watching games and bringing the players in and the chase of the talented player as well.
Brilliant. And I think I've asked a similar question before. Do you see a difference in the players now than where they were in academy level when you was playing?
Yeah, there's more freedom, and I think I touched on it earlier. There's more freedom in what the boys can do.
Yeah.
What I mean by freedom is the boys are learning all the time, so they're engrossed in football 24/7, and they're watching things on YouTube, and then they're bringing it to training. And where did you get that from? Where did you learn that one-on-one move? I saw it, and they master it and practice it. And I think there's a big difference. And I say now, as some of the boys at our level, I say I couldn't do some of the stuff which the boys are doing now. And, and it's really, really quite exciting. Some of the players coming through, especially as I said earlier, in the forward areas of the pitch. I don't think as much in the defensive area.
Defensive,
my job is to try and develop that part better. Being an ex-defender myself, I coached a boy, Lloyd Kelly, who's moved to Bournemouth.
Okay.
Bristol City. I think he's going to be an outstanding centre half eventually, and he played against Manchester United the other day where they got beat 5-2, but Ian Wright picked him out, I think, as having an excellent game. Now he's a defender with the old school attributes. He's lean, he's mobile, he's aggressive, he can get tight. So it was quite easy to coach Lloyd. I felt it was very easy to coach him because he had, and you don't get those traits. I don't think you get those traits often in defenders anymore, especially at academy levels. Because everybody wants the ball at the feet, everyone wants to spread out and get on the ball. God, it's like watching the same game multiple times.
I think this is a brilliant question that I wanted to ask you, because you've even said that you was the sort of head of recruitment. So when you're looking for a player, what is it that you're looking for? That might be a bit of too much of an open question, but are there certain attributes or star qualities that you're looking for in a player?
Yeah, I watched a game once, and one that always sticks in my mind, and he's actually coming into the academy system, into our youth team this year. And he was a trialist, and I watched an under-16 game back, and he was a fullback playing as a wing-back who lost the ball in the top corner. So he lost the ball, trialist. He has run past the majority of the boys to make a last-ditch tackle on the edge of the box.
Yeah.
And I saw enough in that clip. I said, I'll have that all day long.
Yeah.
I said, don't forget about that. He's got that. He'll work on the other part of his game. Yeah. Now, is it too late to improve the other part of the game? I don't know. And he's coming, and he's actually working really well on the technical part of his game. He's got a great attitude, the kid. And, he came in at 16 to get himself a scholarship. So he was very late coming in to get him. So there's still opportunities there for the boys out there late.
Yeah.
The people are always watching, especially for those traits, that hard work.
Yeah.
But when I was watching it, I thought pace, agility. I think in the modern game, if you haven't got pace, if you're not agile, if you can't change direction quickly, then I think you're going to really, really struggle in the modern game. And I know we have sports scientists who can improve and help the boys in that, but you're not going to really help and improve that much.
Yeah.
So I think I look for the sharpness and agility. And then technically, can they handle the ball in tight areas and make good decisions? But if they can't run, if they're not mobile, then they're really going to struggle in the modern game.
And do you sometimes see players that, for example, it could have been him where he's a trialist, he puts that work in, and then when you get him in the setup, the attitude isn't right or the work rate isn't quite right. They put it all in for the trial to get seen and get picked up, and then later on they sort of drop the ball.
I think that's where you've really got to do your homework. So I've seen that trait, in that individual we have previously. I then speak to the recruitment team and they go, "Oh, watch this clip. Does this constantly? This is what we saw in him."
Yeah.
So it's there, and it's a constant trait on the individual, and it rings true with the recruitment team because they've worked hard, they've seen it, they've got him in. I've seen it, and it's all coming together. Yeah. We've got one outstanding individual at the minute who I think has a hell of an opportunity in the game. But as a coach, he's going to hate me, absolutely hate me, because I'm going to be on top of him 24/7. And we may clash a lot, and he may think but I know if I'm not on top of him that he isn't going to show those hard-working traits.
Yeah.
And it's my job to make sure, as a coach, that he does it constantly, because he could be an outstanding individual in the game. Yeah, especially.
How important do you think that side of the game is now? Is that man management sort of, because you obviously know that you can, get under him to get the best out of him and keep him on his toes. But some players may have the adverse effect. I'm guessing that must be really important, understanding what players you can do that with and what you can't.
Again, I was at another very good conference and Sean Dyche spoke, and he said the players in the Premier League, they are, you're dealing with 25, 26 first team CEOs. They're all, they're all CEOs of their own little companies. And you have to manage not only the player, you've got to manage the agent, the representative. So you've got to manage the whole team, but not only manage them, you have to know them individually. What you said there is spot on. So you have to get to know them over a period of time. Now, if I'm on top of him 24/7 and I can see that he's not wanting the ball, I've got to try and take a step back at times. I have to. Otherwise, you may lose that individual. So it's all about, and it's becoming more and more in the game, it's all about knowing the individual, absolutely, to get the best out of him or her.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, we're going to come to a close soon. I'm going to do a bit which I call advice from a pro. But just before we get to that point, Trevor, what would you say has been the worst part of playing professional football is your down time, the worst moments, I mean to say?
Well, you speak about the downtime. All I remember is I sleep a lot as a footballer. Sleep so much. Oh my God. Now I look at it with my little ones, the thought of coming home from training at sort of 1:30 and going to bed for an hour's kip it baffles me. It's managing that downtime. And I got into computer games and I found myself coming in at 1:00 and I was still playing, I don't know, Grand Theft Auto or Medal of Honor or those type of games at 10:30, 11:00 at night. And I hear about that a lot in the modern players as well, especially at Bristol City, about the players are on the computers a lot. So it's trying to manage probably that downtime appropriately and professionally. If I could do my time again, it'd probably do a course and get stuck into that.
Okay, brilliant. What's been your happiest memory in football to date?
Definitely my full debut at Goodison Park. Stood there and I thought, this is what all the training and hard work has been about, is this moment. And I wasn't nervous. I think you hear about a lot of players who make their debuts aren't nervous, they're excited. And they always have probably their best performances on their debuts. Very seldom do you see somebody stink the place out. They generally,
it's true,
performances. And that was probably it.
Is that because of the confidence that you get from the manager actually putting you in and saying, "Hey, I'm giving you your debut"? I'm guessing that gives you a lot of wings.
Yeah, you're right. And you've probably not been around the manager who's giving you a rollicking at half time or something like that, or you've not had any bad experiences which are in your mind, so you're fresh and all you want to do is get on that pitch and play and run because you're full of enthusiasm, energy and enthusiasm. So probably.
Fantastic. All right, we'll just move on to the last part, which is advice from a pro. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions and then you're just going to give some advice to some of the younger kids. All right. So What advice would you give to a young player that is going for a trial?
Hard work hard, run for lost causes. You have to be better than the signed players. You have to be. You have to go and shut down. You need to work. You need to not only show your technical ability, don't get me wrong, but if you can absolutely go and be as fit as you can. Now, we've released a boy at the moment in my under-18s, and I've just spoke to him, who's going to a Premier League club on a trial. They really like him. And the word I've told him, you have to go there and be as fit as you've ever been. You need to go and run, chase lost causes, show your technical ability. You've got to be better than the signed players. So that's the advice for me. Go and work your socks off. Go and be better than the signed players. Go and showcase yourself in a positive light.
Fantastic. Thank you. And on the flip side is, what advice would you give to a player who's come to a trial and hasn't quite made it?
Yeah, I've had countless conversations with these individuals, and keep trying, never ever give up. Keep writing your CVs. I get so many CVs, which I never ever, because of my recruitment past, I never ever put in my trash folder. I always forward them on to the relevant people, whether it be the recruitment or the academy managers. And I'll never ever. So it's keep writing. People read them, people look at them.
Yeah.
And it's keep trying, keep going for it.
Brilliant.
Don't be too disheartened.
And for just a footballer who wants to become a professional and go as far as he can in the game, what advice would you give to, a kid who's 10 years old, for example, that wants to become a professional?
Belief, self-belief has to be within you. You have to love the game. You're going into a profession, probably one of the harshest professions, one of the best professions, don't get me wrong, but one of the harshest, where you're being assessed and judged every minute of every day, in every training session, in every game. You're being assessed and judged and talked about. So you have to have that real inner self-belief and drive. It may be a wet, cold night, but you got to get yourself up and ready for a training session. You got to be as best as you can be on that training session night, because somebody else will turn off and you're going to be better than that individual.
Brilliant. Love that. That's brilliant. What about for the players who get released from a club? Because I believe there's so many that get released and it just goes downhill from them because they don't quite, whether it's belief or have the mental strength to then keep going. What advice would you give to somebody like that?
You hit the nail on the head there. It's all about your mindset, the really positive mindset. I hope he doesn't mind me saying, but I was in the corridor when Dougie Freedman didn't get a contract at QPR.
Okay.
He was a year older than me, but Dougie he was a very talented individual, and he had such a strong mindset that he knew that he was going to go. And I think he went to Barnet, and then he went to Crystal Palace and had a fantastic career. I think he's their head of football now at Crystal Palace. Went to Nottingham Forest and teams like that. You have to be so positive in your mindset constantly. Yeah. Don't let any negativity get to you.
Brilliant. And what two ingredients, what two qualities would you say is important, is the be all or end all? You need these two things to make it.
Yeah, it's 100% grit, hard work. The FA are using this word grit at the minute because they talk about the South Americans and the countries like that have grit, which the English kids don't have. Because
okay,
I said earlier about being on the PlayStation, whereas they're out on the streets playing football constantly. And I quite like it. And I speak to my boys about it at the minute. I'd say, and I put grit in with the horrible part of the game as well. The running hard, the being as best as you can be. So wanting to win every race or wanting to be the best you can. Every single thing you do, it might be a little relay weight race and warm up, but you want to go and win it. That's for me.
Fantastic. Everybody, that is Trevor, man. He's dropped a lot of gems for you watching, and it's stuff that you can apply not only to football but to real life as well. Just then, what you was talking about, grit and doing. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you have to try and do it to the best of your ability. I'm going to make my daughter watch that because it's something that I'm trying to get her in the mindset of at the moment is, sometimes she doesn't want to go to school and I'm got to make her understand is, you've got to go to school, and whilst you're there, make it worth your while being there. Do the best that you can. So
100% on that, 100%.
thank you very much, Trevor. It's been a pleasure. You're not really a social media person, are you?
No, no.
Because usually I say, tell them where they can find you. But
Find me on Twitter or somewhere like that. I'm on there, all right?
okay. Trevor Challis on Twitter, people. If you want to find him, please go ahead. Thank you very much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. It's been an honor to speak to you. This is Trevor Challis, everybody. I'm Semps, and that was View from Inside. Until the next episode, take care, people. Thank you very much.